Welcome to the very first episode of Random Access. My name is Daddy Steve, and we're going to go and get right into it and talk about the week's news in gaming. First up, with the close of 2018, it was reported by Fortune that Ninja made nearly $10 million in 2018. And it's also worth mentioning that he had the most watched hours on Twitch, more than doubling the second and third place broadcasts for 2018. So Ninja definitely had a great year in 2018 with over $10 million made. It has been a ridiculous year for not only Ninja but the platform as a whole because of how much spotlight he's shown on the platform, how much he's made Twitch streaming more mainstream and broadcasting in general. But it was a very big year for Ninja. It definitely showed by the amount of money he took home each month. I think he averaged around 40,000 subs. In the next little bullet point here, I'll go over that. Yeah, he had 12.5 million followers, around 40,000 subs, and his best stream ever reached 667,000 viewers at one time. And I believe that was when Drake was on his channel. So again, Ninja just knocked it out of the park this year. It was a phenomenal year for Ninja and Twitch as a whole. The platform was amazing. Fortnite was amazing. A lot of the top 10 broadcasters for Twitch in 2018 were Fortnite streamers. There were only 3 esports organizations in the top 3, with League of Legends being number 3. Number 2, with Shroud being number 3. Again, it was a very interesting year, but it was definitely dominated by Fortnite. 2018 in gaming will be remembered as the Fortnite year, and it forever changed the landscape of our gaming as we see it, as we see a bunch of companies running out there to create battle royale games in the likeness of Fortnite to try to hit some of that Fortnite money. Meanwhile, Fortnite continues to grow, hosting multi-million-dollar esports events. They continue to reinvest all their earnings, much of their earnings, into the scene. However, it does not go without mentioning that Fortnite also does have some issues going on when some folks have sued Fortnite over the dance emotes that they sell. Most notably the Carlton dance, where there's your character could do the Carlton. Other people have come forward saying that they don't agree with Fortnite selling their dances either, and that's a slight tarnish on Fortnite and Epic Games as it moves forward. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how that goes. But overall, amazing year for Epic Games, amazing year for Fortnite the game. And as we enter 2019, there doesn't seem to be a clear game to dethrone Fortnite as the most popular game on the platform, or the most popular game in general. So without there being any challengers out there right now, I don't see Fortnite stopping at all. I don't see it slowing down. I feel like 2019 is going to be more the same for 2018, at least in the first half, until we get some bigger hitting games out there that could potentially dethrone it. And if Fortnite gets serious about the esports scene, it can only get bigger from here. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens with that. But definitely wanted to give you guys the Ninja update, because Ninja really set the bar, and he really trailblazed the scene for gaming broadcasters. Next up, we have Trick2G. Many of you all know Trick2G as a Udyr one-trick main god. It's worth noting that he does a charity event every year where he raised over $20K this year for Toys for Tots. And I just wanted to highlight some good positive things that these streamers and the Twitch community have done. And he's also a League of Legends streamer, which is what we do in our community here. So I thought that was really great. 20,000 in a weekend is nothing to sneeze at. That was a very good event that he put on, and I feel like it didn't get enough attention that it normally would. But I just want to put it out there that Trick2G did raise 20K for Toys for Tots, and he does this event every year during the holidays. And he personally goes out and buys toys and donates those toys, and he packs them up and ships them out as well. So not only does he do the event on his stream, he also gets involved in his local community to do so, and purchases. He actually goes out to buy the toys and wraps them up and helps them deliver the toys to kids, needy kids during the holidays. So I thought that was a really good thing. Hats off to Trick2G for putting it on. It was a great show. And he has a video on YouTube if anybody's interested. It's very heartwarming. And it's definitely some positive vibes that we need with all the negative news that's out there today. Next up, we have a new law that just came out in Japan making it illegal to resell game keys or any software keys for that matter. But specifically, this hits us in the gaming industry as you know, Humble Bundle gives out a bunch of game keys for a very small subscription each month, and a lot of times those keys can be resold, or you can do whatever you want with those keys, basically, especially here in the United States. But Japan is cracking down on the game code resales, and they have now made it illegal to do so. And if you resell your game keys in Japan, you can face huge fines, like 5 million yen. I don't know the conversion in US dollars at this time, but it is a huge fine for just a key resale. And then you can also face up to 5 years in prison if you are caught reselling game keys or any type of software key. So they're really ratcheting up the stakes for people trying to resell this stuff here to cut back on secondary markets. They're really trying to protect the developers here and ensure that the developers get their fair share cut of the profits here. I feel like that's the route that they're really taking here. So yeah, if you are in Japan and you're selling these keys, I'm sure you would fall under the scrutiny of this law. So just be aware. Europe has actually ruled earlier in the decade. They ruled the opposite way, that it was legal to resell game keys. So in Europe you can resell them, but in Japan it is not illegal. I'm sorry, it's not legal. And a lot of it has to do with the pressure from like Nintendo and other big publishers like that. Here in the U.S., if anybody's wondering, it is legal to resell game keys. They have not ruled against reselling game keys currently, but with this recent news, the trend could potentially change for that. This has created a precedent, and we'll see how that turns out for future proceedings when it comes to things of this nature and selling game keys. And then next up in the news, we have the Mad Box. And you're wondering what the heck the Mad Box is. The Mad Box is actually a new game console in development. There isn't much news on the Mad Box. It was just recently announced this week that they are going to be coming out within the next 3 years. And they're going to be doing direct competition with the big three, which is obviously PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. So stay tuned for more details on the Mad Box. They have funding apparently from the studio that is developing the Mad Box. And they want to compete directly with the big three, with a big emphasis on VR. And in the vague news that was released, they are saying that they want to be able to do 60 FPS in each eye for VR. And they're really honing in on the VR game space going forward. And it makes you wonder if the big three are also going to be heavy into VR going in the future. I mean, you saw PlayStation come out with their own version of VR. And really be the only console to do so. I don't expect Nintendo to do so, but you never know, because Nintendo does whatever they want to do, and they do it their own way. And I'm sure Xbox will do what it can to compete with PlayStation, where they've been in peripherals like Kinect and all that before. But we'll see how this turns out. But with the emphasis on VR for the Mad Box, it makes me feel like VR is going to be the big selling point for the consoles going forward. For the big three consoles going forward, and Mad Box is definitely jumping in, trying to throw their name in a hat to compete with them directly. Another side note with game consoles, Soulja Boy, the artist, the rapper, was selling a emulator console where he just had recently announced that he was selling them, and all of a sudden now he's not selling them anymore. He announced that he had stopped selling them. A lot of people were calling those knockoff emulators. They weren't technically consoles, and so that has been stopped as of, I think, this past week, or he announced that they're no longer selling those. So if you wanted a Soulja Boy console, you're out of luck, and you would probably have to look on the aftermarkets to find it. But it is no longer being available. It's no longer available to anybody. Next, we have the top 3 selling games in the U.S. as of October 2018. So keep in mind, this doesn't include your November releases. It doesn't include your December hits like Smash Brothers, which was a big seller in December. It doesn't include the Pokemon game, which I think came out in November, if I'm not mistaken. So there are a few games that are not listed here because it's only through October. The data is not available for November, December yet. But the top 3 selling games in the U.S., including digital sales, were Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Red Dead Redemption 2, and NBA 2K19. Those are the top 3, and I expect that to change, especially as you get into November and December. You're going to see, again, the Nintendo titles that I just mentioned probably dethrone some of these, especially, I would say Call of Duty, maybe not Call of Duty, but maybe Red Dead Redemption 2 and NBA 2K19. Smash is a huge cult following, and I would expect that those numbers would definitely outpace NBA 2K19, even Red Dead Redemption 2, just because of how popular they are. Additionally, you have your Pokemon games, but the Pokemon games are split in between Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, so that may impact the sales of those games because they're two separate games. But if you combine those together, I'm pretty sure that they add up to a lot of games as well. So those are your top 3 as of October. We'll keep you posted as we get more data on the sales, but just want to keep everybody apprised of that. Next up, we're going to roll into the upcoming games for January. And so the way we're going to do this as we move forward with each episode is we're going to do this week's upcoming games. So because this is our first episode, we had to kind of start here. There are no game releases as of this recording, which is January 5th, I believe. What day is it? Yeah, January 4th. I'm sorry. Today is January 4th. There are no game releases as of January 4th that I'm aware of that have been officially announced. According to GameSpot, these are the 3 games that are coming out next Friday. Yeah, Mario Luigi Bowser's Inside Story on 3DS, the new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe on Switch, and Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition on all platforms besides Mac. All 3 of those will come out next Friday. And then next Friday we'll have an updated list of additional games coming out in the following week. So we'll always give you the following week's game releases, and we'll include all the games for that month. So that way you'll be able to look back on the games that have released for the previous month, and then once we roll into another month, we'll just wipe the slate, clean the start all over. So that's where we are right now for January. If you guys are excited, let me know. There are some big games coming out later at the end of January. Things like Kingdom Hearts and Resident Evil 2 Remake. Those are the big ticket games that are coming out. But we don't have anything yet to sink our teeth into that is like a major blockbuster that's highly anticipated just yet. So you have plenty of time to catch up on your backlogs right now. And then next we have our Game Spotlight. So with Game Spotlights, I want to take a moment to highlight games that may not get a lot of attention, may not get a lot of press, may not be known to our community. So as we move forward, I'll ask for suggestions for the community on the Game Spotlight, on what we should do with the Game Spotlight, and then I will do my research and pull that information together to help make you more informed on this game, what it's about, what type of game it is, etc., etc. So for this Game Spotlight, we're doing New World. New World. It is developed by Amazon Game Studios, and it's using the Amazon Lumberyard game engine, which is a brand new engine that they created. And there is no release date on the game yet. What is New World, you say? It is a sandbox MMO RPG set in the 17th century with an alternate timeline. So it's obviously not historically accurate. It's going to have a lot of fantasy theme in it. It is a sandbox MMO, meaning it's kind of more open world-ish. It's not cookie cutter, kind of like your World of Warcrafts. But it is an MMO, persistent world MMO. And it was announced, I want to say like at least 2 years ago. It was announced at least 2-3 years ago. And then the studio went completely silent, and we didn't hear anything about it. We still haven't heard much about it. They recently started tweeting out little tidbits about the game in August of this past year, of August of 2018. But again, they have been really tight-lipped about this project. They really haven't showed too much. Most of the details around this game are screenshots at this point. The game definitely looks and has a really interesting aesthetic. I'll jump into the video here at the end of the spotlight to show you guys what I'm talking about. But for the most part, this game has been very mysterious to the general audience. Many people don't even know what this game is or have even heard of this game. So I figured this would be a great opportunity to make it our Game Spotlight number 1. So getting right into it, New World. It is a New World era. Hence the name. It's colonials, conquistadors. It's that type of setting that you're going to be in. You're going to be establishing yourself in this new world in this time frame where, like, you had Christopher Columbus discovering Magellan, sailing around the world, sailing to discover the world. It's not a pirate game, don't worry. But you are going to be settling in a land, and it's going to have that type of technology, if you will. That type of setting, that you're going to be expected to go through. And then it has rumored destructible terrain. Again, when I was looking through the details of the game and reading press releases of the game, it had like destructible environments where you could obviously chop down trees, you could blow up walls with explosives. There are other destructible components as well that they mentioned will be implemented in the game, but they were kind of vague on destruction. But it definitely has destructible terrain, which is really interesting. There are no classes like Archage or Monster Hunter. You kind of just pick what you want to do, and you do it. You're not like fit into a specific setting. You can if you want to go do something. If you want to be a melee person, you could be a melee person. If you want to be range, you can do range. You can do those all simultaneously. You can do those separately. You can go down one path and then come back the other way. But there's no set classes, and it's up to you what you want to do. And if you played Arcade or Monster Hunter, then it's very similar, kind of like that, where you can switch between melee and range really easily, or even spell casting for that matter. Next up, it has a deep crafting emphasis. So everything you do, you have to build. All the resources you have to gather. It's got that type of crafting system. The studio is focusing heavily on social features, and I'll get into that a little bit more as we get into this. But they're extremely focused on the social dynamic of the game, making players interact with one another more and more. And I like this piece because honestly, I feel like the MMO scene today is geared towards a single player audience where you can play a game and not interact with anybody, and you can get the full content of the game and never have to deal with anybody ever. And then there's cases where you have to be like there's extreme cases on the other side of the spectrum where you have to interact with somebody, and if you're not part of their group, then you don't get to interact with any of the content. So I like that they're going towards the social interaction required piece, but I don't want them to go so hardcore to one side to where you have to assimilate with a humongous group or guild in order to play the game. The details behind what they mean by social features emphasis has yet to be revealed, but if they are looking to make that important for you to progress in the game, that's great. I just hope they don't overdo it and make it to where you can't even play the game unless you're with a humongous group. So, and that's kind of like the issue that I saw with Atlas, and I'm hoping that it's not the same here. So we'll stay tuned here. We'll have more information on that very soon. There also mentioned that it feels like a survival game like Rust or Ark. They didn't outright say that the MMO was a survival game, so we're not quite sure yet if it is, but they're saying the little bit of time that they did play the game, it did feel like Rust or Ark. And because there are some hardcore elements to the game, you can actually lose your stuff in the game. Again, there's action combat, no tab targeting. There's a heavy PvP focus in the game. So if you are not a PvP person, this MMO may not be for you. But again, there are opportunities to where you don't have to PvP, but PvP is the main element of this game, and eventually you'll run into PvP aspects of the game, even if you try to avoid them. So make sure you're aware of that if you prefer not to PvP. No tab targeting. I like this. I hate tab targeting. I think tab targeting makes the game very boring because it's just very procedural. Action combat means you actually have to care about your inputs. You actually have to care about positioning. You actually have to kind of be a little strategic about how you go about assessing a situation. And a lot of the combat that I've seen on there was melee focused. There were guns, obviously, like muskets and things of that nature, but the majority of the fighting did feel like straight melee attacks or even hand-to-hand combat, where you would be using a sword, you'd be using an axe, you'd be using a club or whatever, and you'd be fighting each other. So again, the action focus there is really like knowing your positioning, parrying, blocking, dodging, all that stuff. So making sure that it is a fresh action-oriented system is important. Early looks of the action don't look that great at the moment, but again, the game is still under heavy development and hasn't even had they've had a closed invite-only alpha, but that is it, and that was in August. So they're still early on, and well, I wouldn't say early on, but they're pretty early in the development, and they have plenty of time to flesh out the combat system a little bit more. The basic elements are there. It looks interesting, but definitely needs some work in order to make it more fun to play. Next thing too is you can capture land, build on it, and you can tax players. Like have like almost like a mini government system or landlord system where the land that you capture and build upon, other players can live in. They can even build on that land, but you can tax them to live there. And today I just noticed that Atlas has released a similar aspect on their game where whenever you claim land, you can actually tax them now. And this is a similar feature that they're adding to New World where you capture land, build on it, and then tax your players. So I think that's really cool. I like capturing land because that continues the PvP aspect and focus of the game. It's yet to be determined if the capturing of land is only for PvP or you can also do PvE to capture land. So maybe you're fighting NPCs to capture land. There is no detail on that yet, but we'll find out more as the game comes along. All gear is dropped when you die. Like I mentioned earlier, this game is pretty hardcore in that sense, and that's why people said it felt like a survival game. If you die in this game and you are super decked out, and you're just like you have all the best gear on you and you die, the person that kills you or whoever comes along to loot your body can take all the items from you. That is a huge thing, and it may be a big turnoff to a lot of people as they see it as a waste of time. Seeing as how like they'll have to be very careful when they PvP. They can't be careless when they PvP. But if they do PvP and lose, that they're going to lose a lot of progress because of all the items and gear that they had. So it's important that people understand it going in because that could be definitely be a deal breaker for a lot of people. Next, they have a criminal justice system, and this is going back to the social aspect of the game. People can get bounties put on their head, where you have bounty hunters looking to kill you. Kind of similar to Fallout 76, where like you get the bounty system over your head, but I hope it's more robust than Fallout 76. Fallout 76, their bounty system was kind of a joke. Let's be real, it wasn't really that great. This looks to be a little bit more robust, more in depth, where you have a system where people can do bounties, can accept bounties to track you down and kill you and get a reward for killing you. You'll be known to other players that you have a bounty out on your head. I think it's really cool. There was a game I used to play. It's called Wakfu. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. And it was a sequel to Dofus. And Wakfu had a similar process in place where if you did enough bad in the world, you would get a bounty over your head. And then these officers, which in this case are the bounty hunters in New World, would come after you and lock you up. And I'm hoping this has a similar aspect to it, to where you can actually RP and like lock up these criminals, and then they can do time to get rid of their bounty, or you just kill them and take the bounty and turn it in and make money. So it's yet to be determined. I like where they're going with this. The criminal justice system is pretty cool. That is kind of unique to MMOs. I mean, at least hopefully like implemented well. A lot of people have tried to implement like systems like this and they've failed or have made them very, very shallow. I'm hoping that they go a little in depth with this and really hone in on this aspect of the game. I think it would be a great addition. It would give us a breath of fresh air, if you will, with the MMO genre. But time will tell us how they do that, or if that's just them glossing by and just adding some superficial system in place. And lastly, they're looking for 1,000-player persistent world. So each server will hold about 1,000 players. Initially, they had said they wanted 10,000 players, but I think right now they're scaling up to 1,000 players and seeing if they can scale beyond 1,000 players. But initially, whenever they do a bigger alpha invite and get into beta, they're going to be doing 1,000-player servers with scaling up to 10,000 players. And there hasn't been any mention of moddable server, like mods to let you mod the servers that you're on or have your own private server. There hasn't been any mention of that either. Again, it's still very early with this game, even though it's been in development for a few years. It's still very early, but they're looking for 1,000-player persistent world here. So that is New World for you guys. And then I want to play a quick video for you guys real quick, so you guys can see kind of their official trailer, if you will, on the game here. And this video is actually where I got a lot of this material from, as far as what the game was about and what to expect from this game going forward. But I just wanted to give you guys a little spotlight on New World. It is being developed by Amazon Game Studios, which one thing I want to say about Amazon Game Studios too is that they have yet to release a game. They were working on another game earlier in the year, and that game got canceled. I think it was Lawbreakers or something like that. I can't remember the actual name of it, but they had another game in development that they ended up canning. So this would be their first official release if it does actually make it to the light of day. And if you, I don't know if you guys recall, but Amazon Game Studios went around like really like picking up all the best talent from MMO scene, like Guild Wars 2, old Ultimate people. Like they're going around picking up a bunch of different developers and like experts in the MMO field, and they were really hailed as gonna bring out the new best MMO out there. And obviously, you know, Amazon has a ton of money to throw at this project, but yet we have yet to really see anything. So hopefully they're just really good at keeping a secret, and that's why there hasn't been anything leaked or any news on this yet. But again, we'll keep you posted. I'm definitely watching this game very closely. I think it would be a great MMO to play, especially if it is focused on PvP and base building, which are two things that really draw me in. And if the PvP system is action oriented, then I'm more for it. I'll be more for it. Okay, so enough of that. I'm gonna show you the video real quick, and then we'll jump into the end of our news segment here. As soon as it loads.
I'd run for mayor of my hometown.
I should have had the video ready. I do apologize.
New World is an alternate colonial America where superstition is fact and monsters are real. Alchemy and sorcery exist in this vast world where blessed blades and summoned spirits clash with eldritch powers and restless dead. Guard yourself with sacred relics, spirit charms, and words of power. Protect your settlement from player bandits and supernatural horrors with arcane wards and ritual magic. Or adventure out into the landscape to discover strange, cursed, and mysterious lands.
Because, I don't know.
And that is your game spotlight for today's episode, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about New World. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll keep you posted. And then lastly here, we have our upcoming events. So we're going to do just January. And so for January, we have actually quite a few events coming up. If anybody is interested in the latest and greatest technology, there's an International Consumer Electronics Show happening in Las Vegas next week. This show is pretty big on the latest and greatest technology, not only in the gaming space, but in technology in general. So if you guys are interested in that and you're meeting the Vegas area, you should definitely check it out. It's a humongous event. A lot of big names go to it. A lot of celebrities go to it. A lot of investors go to it, trying to find the latest hotness out there. And I'll definitely be watching closely to see if anything comes out of this event, especially from the gaming perspective. There's usually like hardware, peripherals, software that's shown here. And it is a huge event. I want to go to it one year. It's so close to us. We're here in LA, so it's not too far away from us. One day I definitely plan on going to CES. It is something that I've been eyeing from the sideline for a long time, but definitely check it out. Another big event that is coming up is obviously PAX South. PAX South happens in San Antonio in January each year. It is a 2-day event. 3-day event. And that is a big event for anybody interested in gaming, obviously. If you're familiar with PAX West or PAX East, this is just another version of PAX that they do for the southern states here. And it's a smaller venue. I would say it's a lot smaller than PAX East or West, but it definitely is a big event for a lot of streamers and game content creators in general. And another convention that I definitely want to check out one of these years. I actually do appreciate that it is smaller, because that means you get more hands-on time on the floor with like games with developers or whoever you want to speak with. Like if you're looking at indie games and stuff like that, you don't have to wait like 10 hours in line like you would at PAX East or West. So in that regard, I think it's definitely appealing. If you guys live in the Texas, San Antonio area, it's definitely something I would check out if you're a local for sure. And if you're from all over the place and you just want to go to a convention that may not be as overpopulated as some of the bigger ones, this is definitely something you want to check out. And abroad, there are a few other conventions I'm not as familiar with. There's PG Connects in London. PG Connects is a big mobile game convention that they have going on from January 21st to 22nd. It is like the mobile game mecca, where developers get together with investors and venture capitalists to work on the next best thing in mobile gaming. And I don't know if you guys are into mobile gaming or not, but it really doesn't appeal to me too much because a lot of those are pay-to-win games or just super like cash grabby games. So, but if you are into mobile games and you're going to be in the London area, definitely check that out. And last but not least, there's a Zurich Game Festival happening in Zurich, Switzerland. This is another game festival that I did not know about until doing research on this. I don't have too many details on it since the website I was trying to access was not letting me get on there the other day. But that is going on January 31st. I'm not sure how many days the event is, but it is happening in Zurich, Switzerland. So check it out if you're in the area. But that about wraps it up, guys. I don't have anything else for you today. I wanted to keep this as short as possible. I know we kind of went long on some of the discussions, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. We will have a new episode for you next week. Thank you so much for stopping by.